Hey all, we're going to do period 3, the Constitution, which is lesson 3.9. And by the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain the continuities and changes in the structure and functions of the government with the ratification of the Constitution. So really what you're going to be looking for is the government under the Articles and then the government under the Constitution. That's very important. So let's talk about what happened in our last lesson. We held the Constitutional Convention and the delegates got together and they had to create a government that was some sort of hybrid between the weak government of the Articles of Confederation and the super strong government of the British system, which they had revolted against. And so through a series of compromises at the convention, they developed a new federal government that had stronger powers, but not unlimited powers, as the British government did. And to do this, the framers created two new principles of government. I really want to stress that the next two things we're going to talk about never appeared in a constitution for any country before. They were never practiced before. They are uniquely American, but they've been copied by governments around the world. So the first principle is federalism. And federalism addresses the problem of state sovereignty because in the Declaration, it declares that the states were sovereign, independent entities as they were under the Articles. And the delegates to the Constitutional Convention couldn't take that power away from the states. The people liked it. They liked that the state government was closer to them. They wanted it to have significant power, and they wanted them to remain sovereign entities. So what they put in the Constitution is this federalism, this balance of power between state and national government. And it establishes certain ways that states can still check the power of the national government and keep it from becoming all powerful. Some examples of this include state governments appoint the two senators that serve in the United States Senate to represent them. Another way is the state governments pick the electors who cast the votes for president of the United States. A third way comes with amending the Constitution, like they did with the Bill of Rights. Only Congress can propose the amendments, but only the state governments can ratify or approve those amendments. So the Constitution and structure of the national government can't be changed without the consent of the states. Congress can't give itself unlimited power. It can't give the president unlimited power. The states have the ability to stop that. So federalism, while creating a stronger national government, still preserves that sovereignty of the states. Another thing that they created was separation of powers. Move myself out of the way here for you. In separation of powers, they set it up so that the different branches of government have to work together in order to do something. A single solitary branch can't act on its own. So power, which is one thing, is split in two, and it requires both those sides to come together to enact that power. And that'll keep the national government from overstepping its authority. So some examples of separation of powers come when Congress and the president must work together to pass laws and make policy. Only Congress can propose laws. Those are called bills, and then they go to the president. And the president has to either approve the law or veto the law, but it doesn't become law without his consent. They also set it up so that Congress can override the veto. With a large vote, they can override the president's decision, but the president has to enforce the law. Congress has no enforcement power. They don't have any way to make people comply, primarily military means. So they have to rely on the president for enforcement, even if he vetoes their law and they override it. Another example is Congress and the president have to work together on foreign relations. There's a couple examples of this. Only Congress can declare war on another country, but the president is commander-in-chief. So troops can't be sent without his consent, but he can't send troops, in theory, without the consent of Congress declaring war. They also control the budget, so if he does send troops, they don't want him to, they can cut off the funding. Another way that foreign relations are impacted by both. The president, as a single individual, negotiates treaties with other countries, but those treaties don't go into effect until they're ratified by the Congress, specifically the Senate, must say yes to make those treaties official. So the president can't negotiate whatever he wants with other leaders. Third, the Congress and the president must work together to appoint federal judges. And that's because those judges in the judicial branch serve for lifetime terms. Once they're appointed, they serve for the rest of their life, and they cannot be removed unless they've done something really bad. And so the framers set it up where the president nominates the judges. He picks the individuals and say, I think this person would be a good federal judge. And then Congress, again, specifically the Senate, remember that's the state's chamber, must approve that nominee. And you don't become a federal judge until the U.S. Senate says you are a federal judge. That keeps the two sides in conjunction with appointing those powerful judicial positions. Finally, when it comes to the Supreme Court and the president, they have to work together to enforce their decisions. The court can decide whatever they want. They can issue rulings and decisions for the whole United States. However, they have no means to carry those decisions out. It ultimately falls to the president to execute whatever decisions the Supreme Court makes. So those are just some examples of how the framers separated powers between the different branches to ensure that one branch wouldn't become too powerful over another, and that the national government as a whole had all these stopping points on it to prevent its power from eclipsing that of the states. The third thing that we're going to talk about, we're done. Got to move myself again though. So keep in mind as you finish up this unit, there we go. What your goal is to explain the continuities between the articles in the Constitution, as well as the changes between the articles in the Constitution in terms of structure and functions of the government. As always, thank you for watching and have a great day.